SAS Fight Secrets. My name is Geordie Wallace and I'm going to take you through a tour of some of the most violent techniques that you could possibly ever get your hands on. We used them in Northern Ireland, we used them in the Falklands. Hand-to-hand combat that's effective, efficient and downright dangerous. So welcome aboard. I'm going to take you on a hell of a journey. When someone's putting you in a position where they want to mug you, where they ask you the time, they set you up to mug you, to attack you, to beat you, to rape you, to stab you, to kill you. Okay? There's a ritual there. They're setting you up. The last thing they expect, and trust me on this one, the last thing they expect is any kind of a response from you, and a particularly aggressive response. See that? It's almost like I use this as a trigger. Boom! I'll hit them, knock them down.
The game, stop the talk show, your time to know, forfeit the game, cause tomorrow, when it's all done, you reap what you sow.
Hit it, boom, boom, boom! Bang! I hit him, boom, boom, boom!
While taking pleasure in the opposite.
I'm fucking aggressive when I'm doing it. Bang! I hit it, boom, boom, boom! What you've got to learn to do is build these SOPs, palm heel strikes, elbows, knees, head controls. Watch what happens, let's see what happens. That's it! Boom!
Things I say I do, the way I hurt myself again just to get back at you. Take away
The other things that we need to look at, such as surprise, aggression and speed, because when it kicks off, these are the three key elements you will need. When it goes to breath, take the wolf from the muscle, speed, and there's a bit. On here, until I shout and then stay so regiment, we used to call it jab slapping, and that might sound a bit racist, but it certainly isn't. Okay? I like everybody and hate everybody equally if they're attacked. Remember, none of this works if you're pissed. So grab the head. So because I hit him, turn him and lock him off and use him as a shield. I used to hit him at Aston University regularly. Right, okay. Is if you want to train but you're not prepared to get the odd bump and bruise, fuck it off. Stay at home, do not go out. It's simple. Hit the groin, head control, smash the head off the bar. So here we are. We're in a perfect situation to start to learn some of the techniques that were evolved over the past 20 years by the SAS. It's true to say that the SAS actually don't have any indigenous fighting techniques of their own. These techniques are developed by individuals, men who have the bottle, if you like, to get into situations where they're going to be fighting hand to hand. If you're fighting hand to hand, you need to know one or two things. You need to understand, first and foremost, that it's down to what's going on in here, not what's going on here. That makes the difference, because that's what's important. It's about making a difference to someone who's in a physical situation with you. When you're dealing with confrontation of all kinds, the first and foremost thing is having a good mental state. Is your intent right? Have you the bottle to actually get on with the fight? And what do you do when those nerves start to take over? Because it will happen. In the SAS, we use a series of training techniques which are common through the British Army, known as SOPs, Standard Operational Procedures. There's no secret there. The MOD won't stop you for saying this, because SOPs are active techniques and principles that are used by all infantry and serving units in the British Army. Everything I do is based on SOPs. They're going to be simple techniques, simple operational techniques that will get you out of trouble quick. And one of the most important ones, and the most important factor in what I teach, is awareness. Developing a high level of awareness is vitally important. In fact, it will get you out of trouble more often than not. The SAS is renowned for getting into somewhere tough, somewhere tight, somewhere dangerous, gathering information and getting out like a fight, because our levels of awareness are exceptionally high. We hone these levels of awareness through a thing called commentary walking. It's a series of techniques that you can practice as well. I can't make you practice this, but it's a series of techniques that you can practice in the safety of your own town, your own home, if it's a safe place to live, or in fact be. Commentary walking is pretty straightforward. When you're out and about, you need to heighten your level of awareness. You need to heighten your level of awareness to take in not just the people in the environment, but the environment itself. Because in that environment, you will find all sorts of objects, implements that you might be able to use to effect a great escape, or in fact, bludgeon an opponent down to the ground. That's up to you and your individual morals. I know what I would do. Being aware of the situation, being aware of the environment and the people in it, allows you to escape if needs be. And that's often a good course of action. In fact, it's one of the most important SOPs in the SAS. Where do we go when we bug out? If the job gets too hairy, where do we go without compromise? So by watching your environment, by being aware of your environment, you will get out of that situation. I can't make you do this exercise, but it's definitely one that you should take note of. The next time you're out and about, notice what's going on around you. Notice what's going on in terms of the people in the environment, the objects in the environment. Notice what's going on inside your head. Don't stay too long inside your head. When you're outside, you should be outside your own mind. Too many people spend far too much time inside their head. You see them walking down the street, head down, shoulders down. They look weak, they look ineffective. If you're switched on, you should be in an alert state, obviously. When you're in an alert state, your physiology betrays that alertness, that awareness. You look around, you're keen, you become a hard target. People are less likely to pick on you. And the good thing is, if you feel that a threat is about to happen, that it's imminent, you will take steps to avoid the situation by either running or evading. Skills that are taught to all SAS troopers in escape and evasion exercises. Remember, the techniques that I'm teaching you now on this DVD have been used by operatives in both Northern Ireland, the Falklands, and now in the Gulf, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. These techniques are not for the squeamish, they will work. The great thing about awareness is if you are switched on and you are alert, you don't need to use them. And that's really what this DVD series is all about. By being switched on, by staying outside of your head and watching what's going on in your environment and the people in that environment, you'll be safe. You'll be safe as houses. However, should it kick off, well, that's where you need some of those vital skills, those physical skills that I'm now going to show you on this series of DVDs. But remember, stay switched on and you'll stay alive. Commentary walking, what is it? How do we use it? Okay, a great example is you get up in the morning, switch on. You don't know whether anyone's broken into your house during the night or not. If they have, you're in for a nasty surprise. Remember, the key element in any of our training is surprise. We want to have that element. We want to have that principle, if you like, in our control. We want to surprise any potential attacker, because the last thing they expect is you to attack them. So anyway, you're getting up in the morning, you're going downstairs. Be switched on, listen for things that are going on, look for anything unusual. Maybe your window's being disturbed, the door's being left open. But notice these things as you make your way down the stairs, and start to notice things about your environment. You know, how many stairs are actually on that staircase? How many steps are there? Does the door open out or in? You'll probably know these things, having used the house and lived in the house regularly. But if you're staying in a hotel, for example, you won't know half of these things. You're in your environment, you're fairly safe. There's a chance that someone could have broken in the night. So be prepared for that type of encounter. When you make your way down to the kitchen, notice where you've left objects and things that you might be able to use. Kitchen knives, roll-up magazines, chairs, tables, you name it, you can use it as a weapon. Even an ashtray is a tremendous weapon. So you made your way down the stairs, you're in your house, things are perfectly okay, and you leave the house. You're ready, you're going to work, or you're going out for the night. Just notice the things outside in the street. Notice the state of the ground. Is it wet? Is it icy? Is it dry? Is it dark at night? Or is it a light night, like in the summer months? If it's warm, is it warm? If it's cold, is it cold? Notice these things. Just start to take in and be mindful of everything that's going on around you. They're quite important. They might not seem important at the moment, but you start to switch on this level of mindfulness to such a point that, in fact, well, you fit in with your environment beautifully. This is something SAS troopers are well known for. I remember a job in the Falklands. We landed the helicopter, we got out, deplaned from the helicopter, and then we settled down into position. And we waited for at least 3/4 of an hour before we made our move off. Because what we did is we sat there silently taking in, if you like, the environment and how we felt about the situation, and then move forward as one unit. You're doing this individually, it's a lot easier. So you make your way out of the house, you start noticing like parked cars, entrances and exits, the back alleys, doorways. You start to notice groups of people. Is there a large group of people here? Do you get the feeling that it could be a problem? Because more often than not, people will not respond to intuition. Women are really good at it. Men tend to ignore their intuition. What I'm saying is, when you get those hairs stand up on the back of your neck, that's a perfect example of your unconscious giving you the idea that something's not quite right. Listen to it. Listen to it and act on it. And if you're wrong, it doesn't matter. And there's an old saying in the SAS, you know, we never ever failed at anything. You know, sometimes things went wrong, but we just did something else instead, and there you go. It comes from NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Program. There is no failure, only feedback. Remember that. So you're walking down the street, you've noticed people, you've noticed the environment. You even notice things like how big the curve is, like you're stepping off. Say you go into a pub, perfect example. You're going into a pub, the first thing I do, and this comes from my experiences in Northern Ireland, is I look for my exits. I know I came in a door behind me. I know that there's a group of people to the right, there's a leery group of people to the left. Okay, I'm going to keep my eyes on them. I look for a seat where I can sit comfortably with my back to a wall, to a corner. Might sound like it's cliche, but it's not. It's important. It's an important principle. I'll also make my way to the back of the pub. I'll find out where the toilets are, and if there's any exits or entrances that I can use at some point in the night should it kick off. Hey, remember what I said? We want to escape before we fight where necessary. Okay? Fighting is your last option. This is fighting without fighting, as good old Bruce Lee used to say. So, and that is a cliche. So you've gone into the pub, you've looked around, you've seen your exits, your entrances, you can now relax. Some people say, mate, Johnny, don't you get paranoid doing this? But in fact, when you practice this exercise, commonly walking, remember I'm talking this thing through inside my head as I'm doing it. Yeah? I'm actually getting more and more relaxed because guess what? I'm in control of my environment and I become a hard target. Even to the point where once I find my seat, I sit down. So for example, I'm going to sit down here. This is a low position to sit, obviously, and I'd rather not be in this position. But if I'm sitting in a position like this, you'll notice I've got one foot to the rear. Just a simple thing. It means I can get up quickly. How many times have you found yourself sitting in a restaurant, on a bus, yeah, in a pub like this? What are you going to do from this position? Nothing. You can't move quickly. If you've got your foot bent and it's on the ball of the foot, the waist's resting on the ball of the foot, you can get up quickly and effect a good escape, but also effect a good attack should you need to. So that's commentary walking. Just a quick recap. Do it from the moment you wake up. Talk it through in your head. This might take a week, it might take 2 weeks, but eventually, it's a bit like riding a bike, it becomes unconscious. And once you have an unconscious learning, that's a powerful learning, and you will never forget that. Your unconscious is now taking it on board, it becomes part of you, like breathing. That's the way I do it. It's worked for me, and it's worked for countless soldiers that I've served with, and countless students that I've trained through a series of DVDs and through books and so on. So let's get on board now with the other things that we need to look at, such as surprise, aggression and speed. Because when it kicks off, these are the 3 key elements you will need. Remember what I said? Surprise, don't let it happen to you. Well, when someone's putting you in a position where they want to mug you, where they ask you the time, they set you up to mug you, to attack you, to beat you, to rape you, to stab you, to kill you. Okay? There's a ritual there. They're setting you up. The last thing they expect, and trust me on this one, the last thing they expect is any kind of a response from you, and a particularly aggressive response. Once you have decided on that response, techniques that I'm going to be showing you shortly, whether it's palmable strikes, attacks to the throat, the eyes, use of the elbow, okay? Even grabbing the head and smashing it on the corner of a wall, okay? The element of surprise is yours. You do it aggressively, you do it as violently as possible, and you do it with speed. And then guess what you do, guys? You get the fuck out of there. But remember, take their wallet. Whenever I'm teaching anybody this, yeah, I always go for soft targets first, and targets that will affect a knockout. This is important, okay? If I've got some aggressive bastard here who's standing in my face, he's having a go, and he won't listen to reason, i.e. conversation, and won't back off from me, then I've got to hit him. The moment he makes his move, I've got to hit him. I've got to hit him hard, but I've got to hit him in a way that will knock him out, will knock him to the ground. And what we're going to look at first is a series of techniques that are used to affect a knockout, because that's all I'm interested in. I'm only interested in getting him on the ground, unconscious, so I can make him escape. I'm not interested in defending myself. Let's get one thing clear here. I am not in the business of defence. What I teach is offensive combat. That's the only style of combat that works. Now I know we start with the law. We'll have to work within a remit of the law. But the law's pretty good on that score nowadays. Things have changed a lot. Should you feel that someone presents a threat, a potential threat, and is acting in an aggressive manner, and even moves into your space aggressively, like Andy's doing now, yeah, although that wasn't that aggressive, possibly quite gay, moves aggressively into my space, I'm going to control the space and then strike him. And I need to know where I'm going to hit him. So if we just quickly use an Andy as an example here, look at the target areas that we're going to strike. We're going to look at the forehead here, hit the front of the skull here. We're going to look at the chin here, the front of the chin here. Okay? We're going to look at the side of the jaw here and here. Okay? We're going to look at the carotid arteries. We're going to look at the soft tissue around the throat here. We're going to look at the soft tissue here, known as the eyeball. We're even going to look at soft tissue inside the head, such as the eardrums. My favourite, my personal favourite, is to attack the jaw every time. And get away from this idea, if you've watched martial arts videos, okay? These are not martial arts. What we're doing here is fighting arts. This is about fighting, from people who know what they're talking about. Okay? Don't hit them in the nose. And no disrespect to you guys out there. You fucking hit somebody's philtrum, it's just going to piss them off. Some of you may be brought up on this bizarre idea that if you strike the philtrum here, that this soft piece of cartilage, which is no tougher than chicken bone, is going to go shooting off into the brain. You've got another thing coming. I've seen people shot in the head and a bullet bounces around and exits usually through the ear. So you're not going to knock a philtrum into the brain. So let's just discount that. I don't attack the nose at all. I might tweak the nose in a playful fashion prior to striking them in the throat, but I'm not going to affect any kind of damage by hitting the nose. It'll only serve to annoy Andy. Okay, so we looked at the throat, the carotid and so on. Okay, working down the body, forget this mass. Unless you're going to shoot him, there's no point in hitting this. We'll come to that much later. And don't go for fancy joint locks. Don't go for fancy wrist locks. You know, you grab my wrist and put me on a wrist lock, you break my wrist and then I break your fucking neck. It's as simple as that. That's not going to stop me fighting you. But if somebody's hell-bent on destroying you, a broken wrist or a broken finger is not going to do any damage. I've seen them. You know, again, no disrespect here, but Aikido, yeah, small circle jiu-jitsu. Yeah, you do that, my finger will break and then I'll kill you. Let's get one thing straight here. This is about fighting, not martial arts. Moving down the body. Often most people think of the groin. Fine, it's a good target, but it's a secondary target as far as I'm concerned. You know, a kick to the groin should always be followed with a strike to the throat, the eyes, the jaw. Moving down the body, the knees and the ankles. We can use those if the opponent is on the floor. And the only thing I go to the ground with is my foot. Stamping on ankle joints, stamping on knee joints. Okay, so there we have it. The majority of good targets on the body to strike. With the hands, the elbows, possibly the knees. So let's look at the weapons themselves. You've got a perfectly good hand there. Don't clench it. Don't make it into a fist. You will break your hand. And I know some of you boxers out there, and Thai boxers, and karate and kung fu guys, they'll think, well, I'm tough, I can punch. Don't do it. If you break your hand, you're not going to be able to use it again. We will learn that lesson in Northern Ireland, because if we hit someone in the face here and broke our fingers, there's no way we could draw a 9mm pistol and sink a couple of rounds into someone, because your fingers are broken. I stick by that rule to this day. If you train to punch and you all you want to do is learn to fight for the street, stop learning to punch now. It's a waste of time. If all you're interested in is self-protection, use an open hand every single time. In a regiment, we used to call it jab slap. And that might sound a bit racist, but it certainly isn't. Okay? I like everybody and hate everybody equally if they're attacking me. We call it jab slapping, and we use the heel of the palm of the hand. It's a strong striking surface. It does a large amount of damage. Hit one of your friends, they'll tell you. And the way we use it this way against the jaw. We'll use it this way against the chin. We'll use it this way against the forehead. Okay, it's exceptionally strong. We can use it to strike different parts of the head as we've seen. There's ways and means of delivering that technique, and I'm going to show you those techniques now. So, you're minding your own business. Some geezer's walking down the road. He walks into view and says something to you. What's your fucking problem, mate? At the moment, you can see that Andy's coming quite close. Okay, so we're going to slow this whole process down. I would have hit him by now. Somebody approaching me at that speed, at that rate, okay, I would have struck them quite quickly and quite hard to the head this way. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to slow the process down slightly. So I'm standing by my own business. I've noticed this guy's been watching me. He looks across at me and says something.
What are you fucking looking at?
No, and I'll talk to him. Okay, I'm going to engage in conversation. Look, mate, I don't want any trouble. Just leave it. Now you can see I'm doing a number of things. I'm controlling the space that I've got here. Okay, if you're switched on, you'll have this space. I'm controlling the space between me and him. He's the threat. However, I don't lose sight of the fact that, you know, I've got areas behind me, to the left and to the right. I'm paying attention to my environment. So I'm watching him. If Andy starts to make his move in, even after I've had a conversation, this means I've given him a chance. So I'm now preparing myself. I'm now preparing myself to attack him. The moment he moves inside my space, my safe zone, which is here, this is when I strike him. As we'll see, Andy moves back, he moves inside my safe space, boom, and I'm going to hit him. I launch all of my body weight into this technique. The hand is in a relaxed manner. It has to come from where it starts. If your hand is here, like so, it's going to move from there and strike the jaw. And you'll notice that I'm rotating the hip via the ball of the foot. This is important. If you want to generate enough power to really finish this guy off, you need to get that hip rotation. Some of you guys, if you play golf out there, it's that same swing. Some of you play tennis, it's that same swing. Some of you even do boxing, it's the same as a right cross or a right hook. It's that same movement. And you drill this movement. You drill it in practice on bags and pads, which I'll show you how to use. So here we go. We've got this position here, and he's at range. He walks into range. I talk to him, he moves in, and I hit him hard. The moment I hit him, boom, he goes down to the ground. Okay? Once he's down, guess what you do? You run off. If he makes an attempt to get up, or you feel like he is more aggressive than you give credit to, i.e. he's carrying a knife, stamp on his ankle joint. Stamp on his ankle joints. And you stamp on them as hard as you can to keep him down whilst you make good your escape. Once you've escaped, you're fine. You're safe. You don't need to go back. Okay? Andy? So that's a basic line-up and a basic strike. because none of this would work if you were switched off. So on this video series, this DVD series, there's no way I'm going to talk about what do you do if you get attacked from behind. You shouldn't be attacked from behind. It's as simple as that. It shouldn't happen. So when we're aware of what's going on, we can deal with threat. And he could have been at this angle here. Yeah, I've noticed him acting suspiciously, so I start to make good my escape. I am going to start to leave the pub, the venue, wherever I am. If he starts to say something to me at this point, or even moves towards me, I'll go, well, what's the problem, mate? See how I give myself space? I give myself time, I give myself space. And he'll voice off.
What's in you fucking looking at me?
Yeah, what's your fucking problem, mate?
You got a fucking problem?
I haven't got a problem, mate. I'm just saying fucking calm down. Okay? The moment he makes his move again, boom, I hit him this way this time. My preference, though, is this. Every single time. It's something I've drilled that becomes an SOP, a standard operational procedure. Or even a simple operational procedure, because it is. Anyone can learn to slap. My girlfriend does it. Okay, so anyone can learn to slap. Practice this on pads and equipment. You'll develop a tremendous amount of power. The important thing is to hit here, the jaw, because this creates movement that way, which creates a brainstem knockout. Once you've got a brainstem knockout, it's very, very powerful. Trust me, I've used it a lot. It's got me out of a lot of scrapes. As I say, other techniques, you could use this, you could use this. But essentially, you find what works for you and practice just that particular skill. Just that one strike, because that's all you need. The best boxers, the best martial artists in the world will tell you, well, I only ever win my fights with one technique. It's either Gyakuzuki, yes, I've done karate. Yeah? It's either a right cross or a right roundhouse kick, but I always win my fights with that. That's what they depend on. And you as a street fighter should do the same thing. You don't need to learn a plethora of techniques, fancy moves, blocks and counters. Fix your mind on one thing. That's my hand technique. That's the one I'm going to use. That's the one I'm going to take the guy down. If it's forward, that's the one you practice. Whether it's the chin or the forehead, that's the one you practice over and over and over again. This is the secret of the SAS. There is no secret. You just practice those simple procedures over and over and over and over and over again. And when you think you've learned them, you keep on practicing it. That's the secret. You'll see that whenever I've been in a situation where I've been switched on, I've been approached by an individual that looks less than desirable, yeah, I take some sort of guard position. For me, it's this position here, and I always say the same thing. And that same thing is, look man, I don't want any trouble, just calm down. You can say anything you want. I've got a friend who says, is that a big giraffe or a small one? That used to get a response out of the opponent, usually bemusement and curiosity. Okay? So you work out what you're going to say. But again, it's an SOP. Guess what you do? You practice it. You say it over and over and over again. Do it in the fucking mirror. Just stand in front of the mirror and going, hey mate, what's your fucking problem? I don't want any trouble. Hey mate, is that a big giraffe or a small giraffe? I like the size of your cock. It's tiny. You say whatever you want to say, but you say it over and over and over again. Obviously, keep your voice down because the neighbours are going to think you're completely bizarre. I know mine do. But that's another tale. So, there's my lineup. That's myself, I'm controlling my situation. But hey, let's say what happens if you're in a position like so? You've been pretty switched on, you know this guy's a threat, you're starting to make your move, to orientate yourself, to move, to control the space, and he reaches out to grab your pusher, yeah, like this. It's pretty straightforward, it's not a fancy block, I'm just going to push it down, and then I'm going to move in and attack him, if I feel he's sufficient a threat. We're going to look in a short while at head controls, okay? These are where we start to really control the opponent. At the moment, I'm teaching you striking techniques. And it doesn't matter if he grabs me with this hand, and boom, I'm going to hit him with this hand. Because guess what? I've practiced it. I've practiced it over and over again. If all you've practiced is this strike and he grabs you here, it's not a problem. Pull his hand down and strike him here. I'm keeping this as simple as possible, okay? And even to the point where if you feel you're an aggressive personality, and I know a lot of you aren't, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this DVD. Yeah, if somebody gets aggressive with me, I up the ante. So Andy starts getting aggressive with me. Fucking yeah, I'm fucking looking at you. I'm looking at you. Yeah, that's what I do. I'll get aggressive. I'll up the ante. But make sure that if you're going to do this type of response, if you're going to have this type of response to what could be a potentially violent individual, yeah, make sure you can fight, because he's going to kick off. But I tell you, more often than not, the times I've done that to people, they've backed off. Their arse has gone from the size of a 5p to a 50p. But what's 45p between friends? Okay? So there's a number of responses you can have. All I'm offering here is the choice, really. Yeah? What I'm giving you here is choices. You take and pick from this series of DVDs what you feel will work for your personality. And hey, if you've got no personality, we can start working on that. Okay. So, we've got this scenario here, we've got the line-up, we've got the strikes, all well and good. Okay, if someone grabs you, as we've just seen, pull the hand down, it's easy enough, and strike the head. You may have noticed that when Andy grabbed me from this side, I actually struck my left hand. It's not necessary. I can pull with the left hand and strike here to the throat. I use a technique, which is quite a disarming technique. It actually can be potentially lethal if you strike the guy on the trachea, the front of the throat here. Because what I'm doing is I'm using the web of the hand. Remember what I said at the beginning of the DVD? It's got one weapon here. Multifunctional tool. It's like, if you like, the Leatherman of unarmed combat. Lots of little different bits on it. The Swiss Army knife of hands, yeah? And here's one I prepared earlier. I can strike with this part of the hand, the web of the hand, exceptionally powerful, as well as this section here. And of course, not forgetting you all karate guys out there, Shuto, the edge of the hand against the carotid. Again, we'll be looking at that later. My preference is always to hit with the heel of the palm. If you're going to go for eye gouges, i.e. you feel like the guy in front of you is actually potentially lethal, maybe he's carrying a blade, which a lot of young men do nowadays, yeah, the thumb stuck deeply into the eye here is perfect to do the job. It will dissuade any attacker. Okay? I've used this on more than one occasion. It worked. So, what have we got with the hand? We've got the thumb, we've got the web of the hand, the heel of the palm and the edge of the hand. Remember guys, these are the weapons that you're going to use. We can then move up the arm somewhat, okay, because we've got one of the potentially most lethal weapons you've got in a human body. We can generate more power per square inch than anywhere else. Better than the knee, better than the kicks. That's the elbow technique. Superb close range technique for doing tremendous amounts of damage to the opponent. Yeah? I mean, if Andy wants to move towards me aggressively, all I got to do is lift my arm and he walks onto this. And you know, we've got cameras everywhere nowadays. Yeah? And if you're seen smashing people to shit with elbow strikes, you're going to be in serious trouble. But this looked like I simply raised my hands to protect my head, which is what I wanted to look like. I mean, why do I use that? Yes, it's safer for me, less safe for him. It's also safe for me if I end up in court, because essentially what have I done? I've slapped the guy. I've slapped him in the head. That's all I've done. There probably won't be any cuts or any bruises even. Okay, he will be unconscious. That'll do the job. The elbow, on the other hand, does leave cuts and marks. So we have to. So you've got a guy who moves towards you. One way the elbow can be used effectively is like so, and he moves towards me. I'll raise the hand up like so. And he walks onto this elbow strike basically. Okay, he literally walks onto it. He does most of the damage, and from there, of course, I can then return to the open hand slaps. Or multiple slaps like this, which is a favourite of mine, Kenny Taylor. He used to drive his hands in multiple strikes like this. So all he knew. But that got him out of more scripts you can imagine. He used to launch himself into the attack like so, and knock the guy literally off his feet, and then run away. That was the way he worked. And he used that a lot in Northern Ireland. I know I keep making reference to Northern Ireland, and if we've got any Northern Irish viewers out there, yeah, it's not directed at Irish people, this is directed at members of terrorist organisations. So, we've got the racist thing out of the way, we got So anyway, moving swiftly on. Using the elbow, okay? We can use the elbow for a line-up, particularly in a close environment such as a busy pub or a club, where you've got lots of guys around you. Yeah, if I've got people around me drinking, talking and so forth, yeah, I've got to use close range weapons. I can't use a palm heel strike. I don't have the time to do my line-up, my set-up, okay? So I'll take it from here. Andy starts on me, and he's on about spilling his pint. I'm going to do more than spill a pint. I'm going to hit him with what we call a side elbow, striking down on the head, the neck. And to be honest, you hit anybody anywhere on the head, and it's going to take them out. You notice I'm using my right hand because I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, you would use your left hand. You don't need to train the side of the body that doesn't work or function well. Work with what you know, your strengths. So I tend to use my right. If I'd been left-handed in this particular instance, and Andy starts on me here, then I'm going to turn the body this way and strike him with the elbow like so. Okay? Hey, I can even just lift it straight up here and catch him under the chin here. Okay? The elbow is superb. If I do it at speed, you'll see why. It's like a short, sharp cutting weapon. Cuts down, cuts back, cuts up, cuts down. Yeah? Left or right, it doesn't matter. And to be perfectly honest, all of my students work with both left and right on elbows because it's like moving your head into a propeller blade. It just cuts away like so. You can even use it as a spinning and a turning weapon. I had one guy, a student of mine was attacked in a bar. This is a perfect example here. A bar's laid out here. This guy starts on, gives him a dig in the ribs actually, like this. Paul wasn't happy about this, okay? We'd just been learning spinning elbows, and he was a novice at this, remember? He said to the guy, look mate, I don't want any trouble, just calm down. Turned away and lifted the elbow up and smashed it down on his head, okay? I don't need to tell you what happened to this guy. He crumbled to the ground. Paul made his getaway. By the time the doorman had come, they'd already thrown out 2 of the guys who they suspected of being violent. So the spinning elbow was superb. If you find this comfortable and easy to use, then use it. It's, as I say, it's got to be simple and it's got to fit with what you know and can do and develop those skills. So if we look at the elbow from a standing position here, we can use it like this, uppercut elbows like so, overhand elbows like this, and even a spinning elbow like so. It may be, again, if this guy's particularly ruthless, a pretty nasty individual, you hit him and haven't quite struck him hard enough, move in and hit him again. And this is one other principle that I want to make clear to you. I said the element of surprise is yours, and I talked about aggression and speed. Aggression means move forward onto the attacker, constantly and consistently, yeah, so that you scare the shit out of him. And if he's got any friends, they think you're crazy. So once I've moved in and hit Andy, whether he goes down or not, I'm going to keep going and keep the pressure on him until he's finished. This is a skill that all SAS troopers have. Even under ambush, our contact drills are the same. Lay down lots of fire and destroy the enemy. Attack the ambusher. That's what I'm teaching you here. Somebody moves in aggressively, I'll control space and go, are you fucking fool, pal? No, you're fucking dead. You make one move, pal, and you're fucking dead. I can leave that whole situation where I haven't struck him once. If I feel he's getting too aggressive, as you realise, I'm going to hit him hard and send him down to the ground. And then I'm going to make my way out.
How did you get into the special SAS? What's your history with the SAS?
Alright, essentially my journey that ended up in the SAS started with a serving as an infantryman in the Queen's Lancashire Regiment, based in Preston Forward Barracks, which in itself is a story. It's something I always wanted to do. I served my time as an engineer, so I'm originally a marine engineer by training. I left school and served in the shipyards. I then did the usual thing of going to the Merchant Navy for a year. And during that year in the Merchant Navy, I realised this was not really what I wanted. I was doing something that wasn't really for me. I was more or less doing it for my father. It was a family thing. And I decided to join the army, and I wanted to go in the infantry specifically. They tried to obviously narrow it down and put me in the engineers because of my training. I said no, I want to be an infantryman. I've been involved in martial arts from the age of 10. I was always interested in the warrior spirit and wanted to be a real fighter. And I was aware that doing the martial arts I was doing at the time, although I had started Thai boxing, just did not have that reality. There was no edge to it. It was a sport. I was never tested. And being an infantryman was a great way of being tested because you've got to realise at that time, in the 1970s, talking the SAS, well, you would never hear of it. Nobody heard of the SAS. In fact, when I joined the army, I hadn't heard of the SAS. This was 1977. The SAS, never heard of it. And it wasn't until I was in the army, and almost in for 3 years, when I'd heard about the SAS. And it was at the time when I was thinking about actually leaving the forces. And my blessed Sergeant Major said, look, you should actually go for selection. You're being wasted here as an infantryman. I was a corporal at the time and a section commander. So I went for, he put me forward for selection. It's called the SFBC, Special Forces Briefing Carter. 4 days in Hereford, take a sort of a look at what the regiment do and to see whether I liked what they did. Of course, that was no guarantee you were going to be asked to go for selection. But at the end of the 4 days, I had my interview and they said they'd like to put me on the next course, which was the winter course, and then I embarked on selection, which was a grueling sort of 7 to 8 month period of endurance in the mountains around the Brecon Beacons, obviously. I think everybody knows this stuff now. Then it was 6 weeks in the jungle, then it was 3 months continuation training, learning to use different weapon systems, different tactics and techniques that the SAS use particularly for the different roles they have. And then finally it culminates in a 7-day escape and evasion exercise where I was caught and firmly battered for 3 days by members of the parachute regiment, bless them. And at the end of that ordeal, 242 was applied and 14 of us got through. And I was one of the 14, so it was quite difficult. And once I passed selection, I then went with my called Sabre Squadron, and I was assigned to G Squadron, which is Mountain Troop, and I was assigned to 16 Troop, which was my particular troop of guys. There was 16 of us in that particular troop. And then got involved in lots of little frolics around the world. Some I can talk about, some I can't. Falklands was a big one. And of course Northern Ireland played a major part in my development, certainly. And it was the work I was doing in Northern Ireland that fitted in beautifully with the way I was teaching martial arts at the time. You know, I've been involved in martial arts since the age of 10, and I'm now nearly 50, so it's been a long road to learning, you know, about fighting. And whilst I was serving in the SAS and in the army, I still continued my martial arts, but actually was able to use it much the same way as a good doorman learns a technique and he goes and practices it on savoury characters. We would do the same thing. You find out one way or another whether these techniques work. Then I came into Surrey Street and I came to Birmingham to do a drama degree of all things, which was awesome. I enjoyed that a lot. And I found that actually, no matter what I did, I didn't seem to have any fear of it. I think that came from being in the SAS. People used to be scared to go on stage, and I thought this is nothing. You know, if I bother me, people said to me, how do you do this? How can you cope with fear and just deal with the situation? I said, well, I don't have any doubts about my ability, so I have no fear. You know, hence the title of one of my books, No Doubt, No Fear. Because I firmly believe that if you have no doubts about your abilities, you'll be able to do anything you want. And it's about that self-belief and totally immersing yourself in your identity. And then much later, people kept asking me the question, well, how do you build this confidence? How do you do this thing? And that's when I sort of discovered NLP and trained with Richard Bandler and Richard Grannon, and went on a course down in London and learned a hell of a lot about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, understanding how people can change their perceptions of the world, yeah, to give them the best they can out of life. And I realised that I did this in a lot of cases and started teaching these strategies for becoming fearless, building confidence, building motivation. But I mean, I use it in other contexts as well, not pertinent to this particular series of DVDs, but it's a very powerful tool. And that's where I am today, and why I'm making DVDs and writing books the way I am, and writing for, you know, magazines on martial arts about having this ability to change your perception of a situation and to deal with it effectively. You'll notice on these DVDs, there's not a great deal of physical technique. It's about aggression and about building that confidence in your ability to deal with what is essentially a life-threatening situation. Look, if you can do it, these are average guys. The SAS are filled, you know, the ranks of the SAS are filled with average guys who are just prepared to push themselves out a little bit further. And when they do, they find out amazing things about themselves. Some of the most innocuous people I could ever meet have served in the SAS, and they're genuine warriors. And I am heartily sick of reading about warriors in the martial arts magazines, and I think it's time to redress the balance. There's so many people claiming this and claiming that. I think what you've got to do is you've got to ask them, have they used it? Have they actually done this? And if you meet someone like a member of the parachute regiment or a member of the SAS or a member of the armed forces who fought in conflicts, they're the real warriors. They're the guys who have faced death. Yeah? Not just training in the dojo, but have actually faced stressful situations, dealt with them effectively, and came out the other end and lived to tell the tale. And these are normal people. You don't have to be superhuman in order to learn these strategies and techniques. Does that answer your question?